So now I'm going to think about my colors. And do I want to use my hot colors for the beetle or the bug and my cool colors for the background? Or do I want to do cool colors for the bug and hot colors for the background? Again, you don't have to do it that way at all, but I just kind of like, I like keeping them separate so that it's easy to see what's the bug and it's easy to see what is the background. So I'm going to make a cool color bug. So I'm going to start with my purple. I'm going to paint that in nice and smooth. And I could make the whole body purple if I want to, including the head and the abdomen, but I think I'm just going to do a little bit to begin with. Okay. Maybe add a little bit more. When you're painting, you want to make sure that you're always dragging your brush. You want to make sure that you don't have too much paint on your brush, because if it gets really sticky, I'm going to change brushes because that one's splitting up on me. If you have too much paint, your painting gets really sticky. So if it's not doing a nice smooth job, if it's kind of dragging a little bit, you probably need a little bit more water, because you don't want your painting to dry sticky. Get all my legs in this pretty blue. And because we had the firefly, you might want to do some kind of fun little tail at the end that might light up. I guess I could do that. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I should do that before I paint that part of the body, right? And then what color would that be if it's lighting up? It would probably be a yellow. So that might be the one place that we would have a warm color if I'm doing this cool color body. Right. Some blue legs, a purple body. I am going to put in that little light down here at the bottom, so I'm going to put some little curved lines. I'm going to trace over that with my black marker or pen, like that. And then I will paint that yellow when I'm painting the other. All right. I'm going to get a little green. And I don't like to dig in my watercolors. I don't want to mess them up, and I don't want to mess up my brush. So I just kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's enough. If I need to get a little more water, I can always just barely tip my brush in the top of the water like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to get me the rest of this part of the body. Right. I'm leaving the very tip of it alone so that I can paint that yellow later. Okay. Now let's see. I want these little circles out here to be purple, so I'll paint those a nice pretty purple. Now your design should be your very own design. It does not need to be my design, right? Everybody gets to do their own painting and their own design. So I'm gonna get that purple off. I always rinse and wipe inside the cup. Dry off on the paper towel. Okay, I'm going to do some blue in here. Whatever I do on one side, I want to make sure I do the same thing on the other side. Bugs are pretty symmetrical, which means that they are, if you were to fold the bug in half this way, side to side, it would be the same on one side as it is on the other side. Just like we are symmetrical. We have arms, one on the right, one on the left, legs, one on the right, one on the left. So, doing the same thing with our bug. This purple circle is a little bit wet still, so I'm going to leave that for a little bit before I paint it. If I have too much paint, I can always just tip the top of the water, get a little bit of that paint off of my brush. Right? Oops, that's all right. If I make a little mistake, if I want to, I can come in and kind of blot it. I have to remember that later I will paint the background, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Purple, I think. Do some purple in here again. It's pretty dark, so I'm going to get a little bit of water on there. A lot of times when it's really dark, that's when it dries sticky. All right, I'm going to paint the rest of my little firefly. You paint yours, and then we'll come back together and talk about the background and how we're gonna do that. All right, have fun. I hope you and your teachers can take some pictures and let me see them, because I love seeing your artwork. Have fun with this, and then we'll come back together and we will do the background for our dragonfly or our firefly or whatever kind of bug you have decided to draw. We'll do that all together. Okay, so I have finished painting my little firefly. And I gave him the little yellow at the base for his light that lights up. I kept everything pretty simple as far as my colors, right? I didn't do a lot of pattern, a little bit, but just a little bit breaks up all the space and gives me a lot of different places to paint in different colors. So I want to think about that, and I want to do the same kind of thing for my background. So usually what I do in the classroom is I break the space that's around the bug into 3 different areas. So this is a beetle that I had done, and this was from a few years ago. And when you look at this, I've drawn 3 lines. Now they go behind the beetle, so it kind of looks like there's more, but I have one line that goes down this way, stops here, picks up again at the base of the beetle down here. Then I have one zigzag line that goes across. The beetle stops it, so it has to finish on the other side of the beetle. And I have one horizontal straight line that goes across, goes across, goes across, and across. I did the same thing here. I have one vertical line that goes straight down, but it goes behind the beetle, so it picks up down here. I have one zigzag line, zip, 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 right? But it's one line, even though it breaks up every time it touches the beetle, it stops for a second, it just picks up, and then I have one diagonal line that curves down, stops at the beetle, and picks up on this side. So we're going to do the same thing with our dragonfly. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw a line, and this one is going to be kind of a diagonal. Maybe it has a little bit of a curve, so I stop here at my dragonfly. I think about where that would continue on. Maybe it would go here and here. Okay, so that's the same line, one line. And it's got to come over here. It goes like that. So that's one line. Then I'm going to draw a second line, and this one's just going to go straight from the top to the bottom, but it stops at the leg, picks up again, stops at the wing, picks up again, stops at the leg, picks up again, all the way to the bottom. Okay, so that's my second line. Then I have one more line that I'm going to draw. I'm going to draw a third line, and this time I'm going to draw a zigzag. So I'm going to go up, down, down. Okay, then it zigzags up again, up. And then maybe it would come down over here like that. Okay, so that was my zigzag line. Okay, so I've only drawn 3 lines, but I have a lot of different spaces now. These spaces are going to get painted in my hot colors, which is red, orange, and yellow. So when I'm painting, I'm going to think about how I can break that up. I am going to go over all of my pencil lines with my marker again. So I'm going to trace that line. That's going to kind of help me remember that I might want to change my color there. You can see here I had a little bit of the green eke out of the side of the wing. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. I'll probably paint over it, but I'm not going to worry about it. You can do these with any kind of permanent marker, whatever you have. Okay, so I'm tracing my lines. Just like that. This one gets a little bit tricky sometimes because sometimes you forget some of the lines that you might have. Like I did that one, but I forgot this side of it, didn't I? Okay. Then I need to do my vertical line here. All right. So I think I got all of them. If I didn't, I can come back and do it again later. And the same thing is true like when you're if you've painted something and you kind of you missed something, or you want to go back in and redo something, do it a little bit darker, you can do that once your paint is dry. Okay, you can't do it when your paint's wet, but you can do it when your paint's dry. For this area, for these areas, since most of them are so big, I'm going to use a flat paintbrush. You can see I had a little bit of black paint in it, so I'm going to rinse it, wipe it inside my cup, dry it off on my paper towel. It's clean and ready to go. So I'm going to start with my yellow. I have a little paint on my brush, and I'm going to paint from my line. I have to be kind of careful in this little area. So it might have been a good idea to get a round brush, or I can just barely use the edge of my flat brush. Okay, I can also, with a flat brush, you can go right up to the edge, right? And drag down, right up to the edge and drag down. And that kind of helps me keep that nice and smooth. Okay, so I go up to the edge, drag down. All right. I'm going to have to do that over in here. Just really thinking about how to keep that brush from spilling over too much in the area that I don't want it. There we go. So that is a nice pretty yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and think about where else I want the yellow, because the yellow is so light. I want to think about getting that in first before I do any other colors. Again, you can see I'm putting my brush right up next to the line and trying to not go over. Turning my paper as I need to so that I can, right, this area up in here, I don't want to use my flat brush because my flat brush is going to be too big, even with that edging, to get in there neatly. So I'm going to use my round brush, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to try as carefully as I can to get into that little skinny area. And I went over my blue a little bit, no big deal. When it dries, if I want to, I can always come back with my Sharpie marker and kind of make that little bit thicker of a black line, or I can just not worry about it. Use I need a little more paint, so a little more water, a little more paint. Oh, look at that. I ended up with yellow next to yellow, but that's okay. That had not been my intention. Okay, and now where my leg completely separated my line, I can change colors there if I want to, and I think I will. I'm going to do that in an orange. I want it a little bit more intense. So I'm going to paint a second layer on top, like that. Okay, and where else might I want some orange? Maybe I want orange down in here. Okay, and then I'm going to paint some red, and then I can come back in if I don't, not everything else has to be red, but maybe some parts are. I think I'm going to do this little bit in here, red. Since I have my round brush on me. And I think I'll do this part here, red. And then I'm going to do this over here, red, and I'm going to use my big flat brush again. Because it's a big area, I can use my bigger brush and think about how I can carefully get up to those edges again. So again, I'm just barely putting my brush right there. I can kind of drag it along. And then drag paint out and away from that area to fill up the rest of this area. Okay, I gotta get up in this little bit here, so I'm going to turn my painting around so I can more easily access that little area. Okay, little bit, little bit, little bit. And you can see how important it is to have a placemat underneath when you're doing those edges. Okay, red. All right, now I think I'm going to come back in with my little brush and the red right in here. Whoops, I don't want that much to dip over, so I'm going to take my paper towel and just barely touch it to that red paint, and it's going to soak up some of that color, and then it doesn't go over into the green quite as much as it was starting to. All right, and then I think I'm going to do this big area over here in the orange, but I am going to use my little brush for the orange, and that's okay that the orange and the orange are touching over here. Fill that in as best I can. So apparently my camera shut off, but here you can see I finished my firefly. I have a nice contrast between my hot colors, which are my background, and my cool colors, which are my firefly. So that's kind of the idea of the project. I hope you've had fun with this, and if you can get pictures up, I would love to see what you've done. See you next time.